Hello and welcome to the Kundalini podcast. That was Zen. This is Tao. I'm Vivek Govekar. Namaste. This is episode 83. I found an interesting topic to talk about. Uh, I mentioned different terms awakened, enlightened, etc. And how that applies to me on a day to day basis. I would like to explain. In a previous video made, I think, 2 episodes ago, number 81, I think, uh, I talked about being illuminated, like all the junk is removed from a sink or a shower, and now the water flows freely. There is no obstruction to it. All the junk has been removed. That's kind of like it. An analogy I can give. Another one is like a light bulb. Everything looks different. More knowledge is coming in. You have better tools to understand your entire apparatus, the body, the mind, the emotions, uh, control mechanisms. You start understanding ancient scripture and start understanding the meaning behind things like yoga and texts in Sanskrit, the significance of mantras. As I have said before, they have a resonance with every petal and every sound related to those petals. It's a divine sonic resonance. That sonic resonance and every single permutation and combination of the human vocal apparatus and how it could be used to speak a language. The tongue, the upper part of your palate, the lower part of your palate beneath the tongue, the lips, the vocal cords all work in a certain harmony to create sound. As I'm speaking a language, because I know the words, I can put concepts into words and speak them out. Now, Sanskrit goes a step further. What it does is it takes every single sound, ch, ch, j, j, y. The ch sound begins here, and the last sound in that sequence of letters or sounds travels backwards down the tongue. And that is true about all of the others. K, kh, l, g, ng. Goes backwards, but at the upper end of the palate. That's how they've been grouped together. Now, obviously, when it's the sound and its resonance, and you understand what the chakras are, which petals respond to what sound. The basic bija mantra or seed sounds are lam, vam, ram, yam, hum, om, and om. This is also sham sometimes. Those are the main sounds of the big chakras. 7 major conduits. There are minor chakras and meridians, and they all have sounds. Each chakra has different petals, they have sounds. A mantra is a grouping together of resonating those frequencies either through listening to the mantras or intoning them yourself. You get the best benefit to each and every petal, and they have been designed in a way to resonate in the best frequency with those petals and their unfolding or folding, or the movement of energy through those conduits, through those wheels and conduits that make up the chakric system, meridians and chakras. So, once you know the syntax, once you know the syllables, you can pronounce the mantra correctly. The presence of the Kundalini energy could potentially give you many of these powers that in ancient scripture were attributed as weapons, sonic weapons, for example, astras. And intoning certain mantras could evoke or invoke those. Remember, though, always that the energy is autonomous and is controlled by a very, very, very high level intelligence, the highest, the Almighty, which is controlling the individual receiving this blessing. So, none of this is given to everyone. I drool sometimes. The little ego part of me that is still remaining, which hasn't completely surrendered, it will eventually. And like I said, the dark night of the soul is done. I am in better control of the entire body with this new occurrence inside me, the snake wiggling and energy churning inside me and emotions, etc., all under my control, it is better because now you have done the hard work of removing the junk and didn't shy away from those things. You can't. If you're a smart individual still resisting with your personal idea of who you are, and this being just a nuisance that you have to cope with, if you took that approach, it just gets harder on you. You have to do the work, and you have to do what the energy tells you to. If it's that smart and it brings you to that conclusion yourself, your own mind, which has been given free will, of its own volition, thinks, yes, this is the best course for me to follow, going along with this energy and its demands or proddings and where it's taking me. That being the best course for me, I may not understand it or like it, but it works out well. Because my limited imagination, which it's trying to erase this energy and what it's doing to me, is trying to erase that old idea about me. That includes all the past programmings, do's and don'ts. Things you thought were normal in society are not normal in society. Of course, you become more moral, upstanding, gentler with people, more understanding of their pain, trying to take it away, help them, but not in a way that is done for contrived reasons, for seeming moral or seeming religious or devout or because of some edict, but inside you don't feel like doing it. No, this time you really understand the meaning of it. The entire world and all of its soul is oneself. And you are just one part of that. So why have an ego? The individual flowering in you is not coming out of the ego's prompting, saying, I am this. I am God can be a wonderful statement of surrender to the divine, being blissfully drunk, intoxicated by God's presence in you and feeling just the joy of living is, I am God. Or I am God, like taken in an egotistical way, or somebody saying it in an egotistical way, right? It also depends on your perspective on how you choose to see an awakened person and how he or she is trying to tell you this same thing, like, oh, you know what, this is being one with God. I now understand this, aham brahmasmi. It is a giving up of ego. It is a surrender of all feeling of me in a negative ownership, inflating yourself in your own mind, no basis in reality. Nobody else sees you that way, only you see yourself that way, kind of way. Best way to identify the ego is this: only you see yourself that way, and you block ways that could have informed you of other people's ideas about you, which may not favor you very much, but if implemented, those lessons taken seriously, changing yourself for the better, some of it could just be jealousy or people trying to bring you down. Not all of it is, though, typically. And you get the wisdom through surrender of the ego and working towards its destruction through your own actions. Using this energy actually brings out the individual in you. That's different from the ego. That's who you are. And now you accept that, everything. And it's beautiful because it's a letting go. Now I don't have to even create a mechanism to inflate something within me that makes me feel better, or I have this prompting from that voice to negate some things about others or to remember things differently than they actually happened to favor me. And that gets in the way of my progress. But if I just am an individual, it could happen to me like it could happen to anybody. Don't take it personally. What is taking it personally? Meaning you have a certain sense of how you see yourself and you wouldn't like to be treated that way. Well, did your actions warrant that? Yes. Then you're going to be treated that way whether your ego likes it or not. That's a lesson I've learned. However, the ego as an interface to understand other people, they may not be equally on that quest towards enlightenment and bettering themselves. They may still be acting out from the promptings of their ego and falsehoods that they present, or ways of behavior that you may not be accustomed to. You may think you don't need this drama in your life and you're trying to get out of it. You try to do good. However, sometimes you have to, create a strong self-defense for not letting that energy into your sphere if you don't think that that is necessary. And the higher energy prompts you towards that, prompts you towards a freedom and independence of feeling judgment, feeling any obligation towards others that is harmful to you. Truly helping people out, that's always good. But pre-awakening, I would have fallen for a sob story or been gullible to go along with something and thought good, I'm doing good, but I'm being suckered. No, with an awakening, you actually put up bigger boundaries of people that are, truly detrimental to your well-being, to your success. The toxicity that they bring is all well taken care of, but in such a gentle way, because everybody is the self. There is only one self. You firmly understand that. You go along with God's plan for everyone and have a firm understanding of your own senses. Now, that is very important to remember. Being devout and being religious should not be taken as a weakening of somebody and now being more gullible. It should be a strengthening but a calming effect. Your soul is unsullied by the outside goings on and does not feel the need to in any way imitate something that it doesn't want to. This is going well. I am at peace with myself. I have a harmony and equanimity within me. And other people and their behavior, while it might be amusing, while it might be a good distraction for a minute or two, cannot overwhelm me with its suggestions that I should imbibe or absorb. Most people don't even think that it is a choice. If you wean yourself away from social media or exposure to media in general and whatever we watch, pop culture, if we limit the intake and make it a habit of doing that, fasts, intermittent fasts, you only then, after the fasts, realize that there was something going on in the first place that you could be out of and was inculcating habits within you that were patterns that were being grooved, and you were being in that rhythm unthinkingly going along with whatever is being fed to you. That can only happen if you show the intention and make the decision to stay away from those things for a little while. You come back and then you understand, this was potentially detrimental to my progress, my attention span, my growth mentally and as a human being. It is up to me to discipline myself to make the best use of it. So I'm using the program, I'm using the phone, the device. It's not using me. That comes from discipline. Again, mindfulness, meditation, stillness within, and moments of Zen experienced by yourself. No one can do that work for you, but the more you do it, the better it gets. So, speaking of myself, as I started this video, I said, what does awakening and enlightenment and all of that mean? Is that an awakening, like I said, a physical process, actual unfolding of energy, really physically feeling it, sometimes having pain in my back, and it's going through doing something, and I can see the difference within myself, goes through some tough, trying times. Then you come back to your inner self being revealed, and then things start looking better. That's a physical process. Enlightenment is the state of witnessing. Samadhi is the state of witnessing. Somebody asked me in the comments, what is Samadhi? Samadhi is the state of witnessing. There is nobody there. You're witnessing. But when you come back, all of the parts of you that were overactive, creating thoughts, the monkey mind, the chatter, have had some rest, if you have done it right, are feeling rejuvenated, you're feeling fresh as a result of doing that, attaining to that. Samadhi is something to be attained. When you attain to that, you're feeling nothing, you're not experiencing anything, but when you come back, you feel rejuvenated and refreshed, because many parts that never got a rest now got some rest. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. And if you can stay in that state at all times, that means you're enlightened. I'm awakened, I have better abilities, powers, I can use them, and it's wonderful. But I'm not always in the state of enlightenment. And that's the quest. It's wonderful. I'm happy to be on the journey. This is Vivek Govekar signing out. Peace, love, blessings. Be well.